Hello again. This is Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencers Podcast to you, coming from Atlanta, Georgia, live from Atlanta. And I want to bring in our second guest of the day. We're talking with Bree Smith of Go Bree Creative. She's senior brand strategist, and I think you can tell by the title of her company, she's the principal. So let's bring her in. Welcome, Bree, to the Influencers Podcast.
Hi.
Coming all the way to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is that right?
There we go. We had another link open there. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
It's good. I always enjoy having friends from the cold northern part of the United States where I was fortunate to live for a short time and understood what cold really is. Being from Atlanta, Georgia, we were not prepared to live in Minneapolis. I don't know how you do it for a lifetime.
Yeah, it's very cold. You definitely it takes some time to acclimate when you're entering into winter. Those summer months, though, are just so beautiful that we just hold on through the winter. We shiver on through the winter, just waiting for those warm months. But if, like I was saying earlier, if you have a really great, like some winter sports, or if you like getting outside, it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, I moved out to California for about 8 years, and I thoroughly enjoyed those years of warmth. But now I'm back in the Midwest, and I remember why California costs so much money. It's the weather. You pay
I
for
remember, in my years of teaching and doing masterminds, I had students from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin. And one thing they always impressed upon me was that the way you stay warm in those cold climates is there's a bar on every street corner. You go in and warm up.
That's right. Yeah. And the interesting thing now, and this is kind of my niche right now, is that Minnesota has a really booming and beautiful cannabis beverage scene. And so that's my interest now. And I think a lot of people might transition staying warm with cannabis beverages in the coming years. So it's exciting, but that is traditionally how people have stayed warm out here, is with a little drink.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to talk about today is what is Go Bree Creative, and you've got several things that you started, some magazines and some things that you're doing. So I want to give you the platform. So let's start off with where were you, what happened, and who you're surrounded by that inspired you to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, that's a great question. I started in cannabis actually long before I actually entered the industry. I was sick, dealing with migraines, digestive issues. I really didn't know the right route to solve it, and I kept going to doctors, no answers, no solutions. And a friend of mine said, "Why don't you try cannabis?" And I was like, "Come on, you smoke that for fun, or we use that for fun." And they said, "No, really, it's has a lot of medicinal properties, and I think if you're using it intentionally, you could probably solve some of the problems that you're dealing with." And so I gave it a shot. I wanted to learn as much information as I possibly could about cannabis, and I attended a green flower symposium with some of the brightest minds in the industry, talking about how it's beneficial for your health, how you can utilize it. And I just became totally hooked. It was everything I had been looking for. The information was outstanding. And so that kind of started my journey into cannabis. I was just looking for as many resources as possible to learn about how it could help me or how it could help other people in my life. And at the time, I was in the ad agency world. I graduated with a degree in mass communications, advertising, with an emphasis on graphic design and creative work. So I decided at that point, once I had really started digging into it and learning everything that I could, that I wanted to transition my experience from the ad agency world into the cannabis industry and use all the skills that I had learned at that time and apply it to businesses trying to reach people like me. So I started applying, and my first job was actually with Green Flower. An amazing experience. I learned so much. It was at the start of them kind of developing the outline of the Ganjier program, which is essentially a sommelier program, but in the cannabis world. And I'm really excited to now say that I am officially a student of the Ganjier program. I was just accepted in February. So it kind of came full circle from my very first, role in the cannabis space to now being in the program to become an expert in cannabis. But from there, I started working with different cannabis brands. Um, I've done blog posts and articles. I've written website copy for, I don't know, maybe like 50 plus cannabis brands, developed their branding and their brand strategy, digital marketing, events. Gone to a host of conferences, and now I can say I'm firmly planted in the cannabis space. Now with my own brand, Go Bre Creative, I help brands to establish their personality and their voice and communicate with their customers, to reach people who were like me. I was struggling with my health. I didn't know where to go. I had gone to Western medicine doctors. I had started visiting holistic practitioners and still felt like I needed more information, and I needed to know how I could utilize plant medicine. And now, knowing what I know, cannabis can be a really great solution for a lot of people who are in that position.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of points there that the lack of knowledge by the general public really it blocks a lot of people's health and
Yeah.
understanding of what could be. So I found some statistics as I was browsing online that really shocked me. I don't know about they're shocking to you because you probably know, but in the industries that were highlighted, tobacco, cannabis, chocolate, craft beers, there was this level of spending in the ad agencies and the consumption of those products. And of course, tobacco was still number one. Cannabis was number two, ahead of chocolate and ahead of craft beer. And so you got
That's
a sense if you're an average person, how much chocolate you eat every day. You get an idea how much craft beer you drink if you like beer. It's certainly more tasty than Bud Light.
right.
Uh, Craft beers are mellow and thick and full bodied, but cannabis is something we don't know about. But there's an awful lot of, and we're talking just the medical legal use. So we're talking
Absolutely.
huge business. So
Huge
that's what
business.
I want you to bring out today is really how mainstream is it, and how are we going to find out more to our ultimate benefit?
Sure. It's so bizarre to me, in the cannabis space. It's been illegal for decades, and Black and brown people have been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs. They're still disproportionately affected. White people and people who have a lot of money are now making a lot of money off of cannabis while people are still suffering behind bars. So for good reason, I feel like people aren't public about their consumption use or the benefits that they have been receiving from cannabis because they're afraid. And with half of the United States still in suffering from prohibitionist laws, um, access to it is still very limited. However, people find their ways, and I try not to use the term black market. We're transitioning out of using that language, to using the language that is called legacy market. So people who have been in the industry, regardless of the prohibitionist rules around it, the people who have sacrificed and risked everything to utilize plant medicine. But that being said, there's a lot of fighting that we have left to do to free people who are currently behind bars for nonviolent offenses, involving cannabis. And I think more and more people will become comfortable with discussing it and learning about it and attending events around it, when they see that it's safer So that's part of my mission too, is providing a safe space to learn about cannabis, to feel comfortable to ask questions, um, to provide resources, to highlight brands who are doing a really great job, who are growing clean. I prefer sun grown, but indoor can also be, can have some really great results as well. But um, top choice would be sun grown cannabis, and we want to make sure that our cannabis doesn't have any, you know, pesticides or mold or any of those things. So you want to make sure that you're going with a brand that has gone through lab testing and has those results available. Typically, there's going to be like a QR code on your product. But for some people, they don't have access to that. They're utilizing legacy cannabis from underground people. And that can be dangerous in some instances because you don't really know how it's being grown or what's being applied to it. But people still really want access to utilize plant medicine. So people are risking that. And um, hopefully those legacy growers can do things the right way so that they're not endangering people who are utilizing cannabis for their health. But that being said, there are a ton of resources now, people who are discussing cannabis who are trusted resources. Green Flower is a great resource. The Ganjier program, if you're really, truly interested in becoming an expert in cannabis, that's the way to go. Um, and there are a lot of brands that are taking it upon themselves to educate consumers on cannabis. And a lot of brands have blog pages on their websites and informational pages, um, to really help and educate consumers. And I think that's the best approach for brands to go, is to educate in any way that they can.
Tell us about Bree Smith Creative. What is it you actually have as your company motto?
Oh, that's a great question. I haven't developed an official motto yet, but my mission is to help, especially women and people of color. Um, when we help others, we help the world, we help ourselves. There's no better way to spread the good word than with generosity and with love. So, and I know your previous guest that you had on the show earlier today was saying something very similar to that. So, he seems like a great guy, and I think that motto follows. It rings true for most companies. Like if you're doing good work, if you're helping people, you're in the right place.
Do you have any success secrets that you can share with us to model from?
Yeah. Networking on LinkedIn has been absolutely huge for me. I started first, I felt such huge imposter syndrome, and I didn't feel like I could really post things because I was like, who am I? Who am I to say this stuff? So instead of trying to force it and feel like I'm, entering into a space that I don't belong into, I was just starting by engaging on other people's content, reading their articles and commenting about what I liked about those articles, or if they had some really great wisdom, why did that apply to me and how did I feel like I could benefit from that? And by engaging in other people's content, people started seeing my name more often, and they could start to see my opinions come out in those comments. And it's benefiting other people by engaging with their content. That's how I really started, is just like engage, talk with people, comment on posts, like posts, react to things. If somebody has a newsletter, sign up for it, engage with it, that sort of thing. And then I moved on to, once I started feeling more confident, or somebody had a post that struck a really powerful thought for me, then I would start posting. And then I got more confident to post my work and my articles. So LinkedIn, there's two pieces there. One is engage with other people's content, and then two, start to post when you feel more comfortable. And I kind of disagree with most social advice, which is like, you got to post every single day. I don't have time for that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm busy working and I'm busy being a mom to a 3-year-old. So I don't have time to post every single day. And I don't think that the world is going to end if you don't post every single day. I post maybe like once or twice a week, and I've done just fine with that. So take the pressure off just a little bit and post when it feels right. Don't put so much pressure that you're like, I'm failing. No, you're not failing. Do what feels right for you. That cadence, that natural cadence, is what's right for you. So that's my advice there. And then the third piece would probably be, create your opportunity. So if you're applying for things or you're reaching out to people and the opportunities are there, but you're just not landing those opportunities, think about how you can create your own. I recently started doing that. I heard that the president of the Cannabis Beverage Association was going to be in town over the week of 420. It's a big holiday in the cannabis space where we celebrate access to cannabis and with copious amounts of it in many forms. And when I learned of that, I really felt like it was important to create an opportunity for her to experience what the Midwest was doing in cannabis. And so I contacted two of my mentors in the space and said, let's host a dinner. So we created a dinner. We invited amazing people in the space. Most of them showed up, surprisingly. Like 25 of the 30 people we invited showed up. And it was a really great moment. I met more people. I'm creating opportunities just from that event. So I would say if there's not an opportunity that's really providing something great for you, create the opportunity. Keep your eyes open for moments that you can create a space where you're helping others and also that can benefit you.
Oh, that's excellent. I love the dinner idea. Did Cheech and Chong actually show up?
I wish, but we had amazing people there and we had some awesome consumption on site in the form of beverages, surprisingly, instead of smoking. So it is possible to have a public, wonderful consumption event space and to do it in a way that feels much more normal for some people. You know, consuming beverages seems you'd have a beverage with dinner no matter what. So why not have, cannabis infused into it? So it's such a cool experience.
So, is that more of a health drink or more of an atmosphere altering drink?
Well, I think it can be both, especially if you have a great brand who is using really wonderful ingredients. This one in particular is called North Higher Vibes, and they use stevia and erythritol, so you're not drinking a ton of sugar. I think if you choose the right beverage, it can be both. It can be both medicinal and it can be for pure enjoyment.
Yeah. Going back to that motivational thing and your company motto, I was just thinking, being that it's Bree Smith, just don't choose something that's too cheesy.
Yeah. You know what? I think those cheese puns, I might have to go with a couple because the opportunity is too good. I'm from Wisconsin. My name is Bree. Come on. It's a match made in heaven.
Cheese,
Too
cheese
good
fries,
of an opportunity.
cheese fries. So tell us, why would somebody use your agency, buy from you, become a client?
I think my work speaks for itself. I've worked with so many wonderful brands. Their websites are beautiful. Their branding is amazing. They're communicating with their customers in a way that resonates with their customers. Having been a consumer first, having been a medical consumer first, I knew what I was searching for answers. I was searching for a brand I could trust. I was searching for educational information. I wanted to know what was in the product. I wanted to know that they cared about what was in the product. So I was searching for those brands. And now I can help brands like that to communicate those benefits and those pain points for the consumer so that we can target exactly who they're looking for and those people can find them. Um, Consumer first, brand strategist second. I feel like that's a perfect pairing to create great content.
When we talk about the ideal client, are we talking about people with medical issues? When we talk about somebody who uses the products, what kind of medical issues does it help with? Is there a short list?
There's a long list, but for most people, it's going to help with feelings of anxiety or stress. It's very calming. If you overconsume, that calming feeling can end up turning more into kind of like a paranoia feeling. So you want to make sure that as you're starting your journey with cannabis, you are slowly titrating up, which means you're, in small increments, you start low, you go slow. That's kind of a general motto most people have heard in the cannabis space. Start low, go slow. So start with a 2.5 milligram dose or a 5 milligram dose. Most edibles are in a 5 milligram dose to begin with. And that's like a really great starting point to understand, do you need, is that good? Is 2.5 milligrams good? Or could I go up just a little bit more the next time? And give yourself a couple hours to soak that in and see how it makes you feel. And then the next time, if you feel like you'd like more, then move up by 2.5 milligrams. So from 2.5 to 5, from 5 to 7.5, from 7.5 to 10, and give yourself time to understand how your body reacts to that. There's so many ways to consume cannabis too, and each one affects you a little bit different. So for someone who's starting with consuming, combusting, smoking, you might want to start with one puff. Don't go beyond that because you don't know how your body reacts to it if you're new to it. So there are a lot of ways to learn how to consume, and I definitely would suggest, following along for tips from me or from other brands who can help you with that process. But there's no true like ideal client. Some people use it, like I said, for stress relief. They want to feel lighter, more positive. That's more like the recreational consumer. But you're still getting therapeutic benefits from it, whether or not you really know it. And the medical consumer, they're probably going to want higher doses. And that's something that they should talk through with someone who can really guide them. I think Mara Gordon is an awesome resource. She's an expert in cannabis, an expert in dosing. So follow her. I believe her brand is Aunt Zelda's. So really great resource there. But the ideal client could be anyone who's suffering from cancer and epilepsy, major disorders, spine disorders, disorders that have serious levels of pain. And those medical consumers, might need something like an RSO or a lot of flour that they can put into like a volcano, a vape device, and really get use of those terpenes and cannabinoids.
I know as a doctor, I prescribe drugs for the use for patient comfort. I'm a surgeon, a dentist that does a lot of surgery, and we're talking about opioids, we're talking about non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, and other things, sedatives, anti-anxiety agents. So we dose people according to their needs, and there's definitely a danger zone that you can come to in any drug. So how does the cannabis industry regulate when it's purchasable over the counter? How do you regulate going from recreation to danger to even what's the word, disabling levels of you know what's the word I'm looking for, DUI type level of danger?
Sure. So here's the thing with cannabis. Um, it it does not affect the mechanisms in your body that control your breathing, which means like unlike alcohol, which can kill you from overconsumption, cannabis can't shut down your respiratory system and your heart. So as much as it can be very unpleasant to overconsume cannabis, you're not going to die from it. And your experience with that might last a couple hours depending on how you consumed, but overall, you're still going to be relatively safe. So that's the one really true benefit of cannabis, that it is a very safe modality for pain reduction. And we want to be careful with saying, overdose, because in most cases with opioids or other very strong medications, overdosing means that you could die. If you overdose with cannabis, or you're dosing over your comfort level, you're not going to die, but you might feel discomfort, and mostly in the form of paranoia. But don't panic, because there are ways to reduce that feeling, and that's typically through drinking water, eating something, being in a setting that feels safe to you, and maybe doing something that you enjoy. So if that's, reading or doing art or watching a comforting show, maybe don't watch any like serial killer shows while you're in a state of overconsumption. But you know, it's such a safe option for so many people. And of course, there's the topic of cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, which is very, very unique, and many people don't suffer from that. So that's one thing that people will argue, like, well, it's not safe for some people who have, CHS, and that's true. You can experience vomiting and discomfort if you experience CHS, but it's not very many people suffer from that. So that is maybe the one case where somebody might not be a great fit for utilizing cannabis.
I think I was trying to find the word earlier, impairment.
Impairment, sure.
The danger of impairment for driving is probably the one thing that drives most people in the law enforcement to say, can't drive with under the influence. How do you answer that question among people who want to get out and drive?
If you know that you've consumed over a comfortable amount for yourself, then the choice should be very clear that you shouldn't drive. But for many people, and this may be an unpopular opinion, um, many people can safely drive after they've consumed. It's not like alcohol where um, you don't have control of your body as well. You're dizzy, you're falling over. For most people who consume cannabis, that's not the experience. It's mostly like a heady experience. You feel euphoric, you feel energetic, happy. You're not feeling like I'm gonna fall over, or I can't walk straight. Um, but with anything, if you've overconsumed anything, it's not gonna be safe to drive. If you've taken more than you should with pills, it's not safe to drive. If you I don't know, if you're just sick in general and you are gonna throw up every 3 seconds, you shouldn't drive. There's many instances where you don't wanna get behind the wheel. So I would say if you know that you've consumed more than what feels comfortable for you, then stay put and order an Uber or ask a friend to drive you somewhere. But in most cases, people who consume a safe level of cannabis do feel safe to drive because they don't feel like they are out of control of their senses and their ability to make sound decisions.
So going back to the question of clients for your agency, how do you find the people that you attract to your business?
LinkedIn is my primary source. Um, Word of mouth. I know really a lot of really great people in the cannabis space. They know me now, and they can say if you need help with writing, if you need help with branding, if you need coverage for an event, you should talk to Bree. That's always really helpful to have people speaking your name in rooms that you're not in. And I try to do the same for people as well. Um, and showing up at events, taking part in other people's efforts to create business for themselves. I show up and I give them my business as well. So if there's an event, I buy a ticket. If there's a panel, I'm buying a ticket. If there's a conference, I'm buying a ticket, or I'm working with one of the publications that I write for to get a media pass to those things, showing up, talking about it, sharing what other people are doing. I think that's one of the best ways to get customers for yourself is uplifting other people in any way that you can.
I saw that you had Fat Nugs magazine,
Yeah.
and are there other well-defined products and services that you offer?
Yeah, so I write for a couple different publications, Fat Nugs Magazine, Beard Bros. I have a couple pitches out to High Times and some other cannabis magazines. So coverage for events is something that I offer, paid media options to get your brand spotlight in one of those publications. Um, yeah, and I have my website is about to be launched. I'm really excited about that. It's gobrecreative.com. And I partner with some trusted brands that I've vetted personally to offer their products on my site as well, or at least links to their products. I'm kind of an affiliate partnership there. So yeah, when the site is launched, hopefully by the end of this week, you can go and check that out and see other products that I recommend.
Yeah, we usually ask people how do they crush their competition, Bree, but what I'm going to ask you is how do you smoke your competition?
You know, I have a unique perspective on this. I'm not competing with anyone. I am here to uplift other people. There are other writers in the space that I've uplifted them to the point where, one of the people that I mentored is now the editor of a magazine that I write for. So There's no competition. I believe that everyone has their unique voice and their unique offerings, their unique benefits to the world. We need to uplift each other. If that opportunity works for someone else, it wasn't for you. That's the way it is. And so we uplift people in any way we can, and we support our competition.
Absolutely. What three online platforms do you and your company rely on when you are marketing or growing your company?
LinkedIn, number one for me, always. Um, Instagram is second for me, but I just wish that they weren't a Meta product. I'm not a fan of Facebook. I'm not a fan of Meta at all. So, LinkedIn for sure. And there are some cool cannabis platforms that are up and coming. BuzzFeed is a great site that I love to peruse. I love to see new products coming out on there. Leafly is a great platform as well. Um, yeah, and I mean, really, truly, LinkedIn's the place for me.
Now, how do you deliver your clients a 5-star experience?
Great question. I really love to have a starting conversation with clients to dig in really deep into their why. Why are you doing the business that you're doing? What makes you passionate about that? What are the benefits to your clients? Understanding on a really, really, really deep level what they do is important to me because if I'm going to establish the brand's personality, the voice, I need to basically feel like I am the company. I need to know it on such a deep level that I can write that copy. And when they receive the copy, they're like, nailed it. You got it all right. And I'm really happy to say that in almost every situation that I've written copy for another business, that's been the response. And in the times that it hasn't, it's, you know what, this was something that we didn't end up talking about enough in depth, and here's more information about that, so we can tweak this information, and then that's solved any area that wasn't like hitting the nail right on the head. But really, truly, it's getting to know people, giving them the space to express what their company is all about and why it's important to them, and get onto a level with them where I love their business as much as they do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you get advice that can be applied to any business, but you're one of the few marketing firms that I've come across as far as my interviews who's really serving a single solitary niche. You did the deep dive into a niche and you superbly support that niche, and that might be a message for a lot of people out there who are looking for somewhere to shine. Find a niche that you're going to be able to shine in. It's not a generalist, be a specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be tough to find that, but once you do, yeah, it can be really great.
How do you convert your clients to brand ambassadors when you get them to promote you in general?
Just try to show up as a good person, truly. People want to talk about and refer people who are good people. They want to do business with someone they can trust. I try to establish that trust. I try to help in any way that I can. And if it's not a good fit, I'm okay with saying no. I'm okay with saying, I think that you're a great person, your business is great, but I think that you would maybe be best served with another company that aligns closely with your values. And if I have recommendations for that, then I give those recommendations. Um, I think following through with your word, being honest, being trustworthy, being passionate. Passion is huge. And I think if you can showcase that for your clients, then they'll naturally become brand ambassadors.
Surely, surely. Tell us what you're grateful for today, Miss Bree.
Cannabis. Duh. No. I'm grateful for cannabis, but I'm really, really grateful for my family and for my daughter. I have a 3-year-old daughter. And if it weren't for her, man, life would not be as sunshiny. So she inspires me every single day to be a good person and to show up for people and to have some fun.
Yeah, I think with a 3-year-old, I know why you don't blog every day.
Yeah, no kidding.
How do you get up and start every day? Does it involve any particular routine?
It does. I always drink a big glass of water, got to get the digestive system flowing, and a big glass of tea. That's my starting point. and I try to fast until about 11, and then I'll have my first meal of the day. But I've found that that is surprisingly invigorating and has helped my digestive system a lot. So I would highly suggest it. There's nothing like a really great herbal cup of tea in the morning.
Do you have a life goal, something that you plan to do that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah. I haven't really spoken it out loud, but I think it would be really great to be the editor in chief of a magazine or to be the host of my own show. I'm kind of working on some of those things, but I believe that things happen in the right timing. So I am just stepping on each stone along that path, and hopefully that's where I end up.
You heard it first on the Influencer
Yeah.
Podcast. Bree Smith, the editor of the magazine.
Yep.
And I don't know the name of it, but it might be cheesy. You can count on that.
I love it.
Tell us about what's going to happen if you don't become that editor of that magazine. How are you going to feel?
Um, you know what? I love what I'm doing. I love helping people. I love helping brands. I love digging deep and getting into the nitty-gritty of what makes a brand unique and special. I think I'll be okay. As long as I'm continuing to follow down this path, and the path is really focused on lifting up people, lifting up really great vision and mission-based companies. I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be happy.
A lot of people have challenges they just get stuck and can't overcome. What do you do specifically to overcome the challenges that life throws at you?
I smoke a J. I
Honest, honest.
honestly, I consume cannabis. That's when I'm feeling very overwhelmed, and I'll tell you, I recently have had some very big life challenges. I'm a newly single mom, and that has been a lot to endure and to process. And the biggest thing for me is that I consume cannabis in a way that helps me to process that, process trauma, process difficult feelings. I utilize that. I get outside. I try to really soak in as much sunlight as I can, express myself through art. And that really truly helps me to overcome those challenges. Oftentimes, if I can kind of create a space where I can, that space where I'm utilizing cannabis and I'm being creative, or I'm getting outdoors and I'm getting away from the challenge enough, then when I'm ready and I've had that moment, I can come back to it with a refreshed mind and feel like I can tackle things in a much more holistic way.
Very good. Now, let's get back to that specific time where you're looking to help your clients. Talk about paid digital media, and the Facebook and the Google and LinkedIn ads tend to be the major ones that people use. Have they played a role in your growth or your clients' growth?
So I will say this. I am in the cannabis space, particularly. There are not a lot of opportunities to utilize paid media. Facebook, Google, they have rules against cannabis. So for my clients in particular, that's not something that I'm suggesting. However, LinkedIn has been, and truly, like, I'm really grateful for LinkedIn. They have provided a space for cannabis industry professionals to be able to discuss the business that we do. Some people have gotten little slaps on the wrist and they get shut down for 24, 48, 72 hours, whatever it is. Um, but for the most part, LinkedIn has been a place where you can promote your business. Twitter is now an option for cannabis brands. They just announced more recently, within the last couple of months, that you will be able to utilize paid options to promote business within, there's some rules around that. But other ways that you can use paid media is by going directly to publications like Beard Bros, Fat Nugs Magazine, High Times, those cannabis-based publications. And there are some other online platforms that are starting to become more cannabis friendly. I know Mind Body Green. I've seen that website has offered space for cannabis brands to advertise. So you just kind of got to be a little bit strategic there. But I think the one place that I can certainly recommend would be LinkedIn or Twitter for paid media.
Is there any particular guideline you give people to do their ad revenue on the paid media
I think
buys?
typically for most brands, it's usually between like 2 and 5%. But I think it's all case by case basis. If you can develop a following organically, you're going to be much better off because um, those are people who want to be there. Those are people who are not being, the message isn't being forced on them. They're people who are showing up because they want to. So, like I said, 2 to 5%, but each brand is different. It might be a little bit less for some brands, especially if their budget is low to begin with. But if you're a bigger brand, you might be able to go higher than that. It doesn't always have to be necessarily in paid digital media. It can also be in events. Um, In-person activations, I think, are so, so powerful. So I think sometimes that might be a better place for people to spend their money.
Excellent. Good advice. Tell me, looking back at your 20-year-old self, when you were just getting started, what was your advice that you would give yourself?
Great question. I think it's two things. One is it's so hard, but try to keep your personal life at home as much as you can and your professional life in the professional setting as much as you can. Um, People can become you can form friendships in professional settings, and certainly I feel like a lot of people that I've worked with have become friends, but just there's a delicate balance to strike there. And then the other piece would be that it's okay if you get laid off. Every single opportunity that you experience is a stepping stone. You're gathering skills in each and every role that will benefit you in the future. So I started off as a freelancer and um 3-month gigs, 6-month gigs. Sometimes I would land a full-time job and then there'd be some mass layoff of 80 plus people. That happened on so many occasions, especially because I entered into the job market in 2011 at one of the worst times to enter the working world. That was after I graduated college. So um, I experienced a lot of that. And at first, I was crushed when I'd get laid off. But I quickly realized that there was a great opportunity waiting on the other side of that. And I needed the skills from this role to succeed properly in the next role. So each and every job is a stepping stone. Soak in as much as you can from that, and then put it on your resume because you will need those skills in future roles.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. I've interviewed a lot of people that never touched on that one topic, is that every time you get laid off, you have an opportunity for growth. And it's true. These days, people don't stay in the same job for 20, 30 years.
No, not at
Who's your
all.
living mentor and did they impact you?
I feel like right now I have 3 really great mentors. One is Elizabeth Sage. She's based out of Minnesota. She is just a powerhouse and she supports people, uplifts people. There's never a moment where I've seen her being greedy or self-absorbed or anything like that. She's just a true giver, and that really inspires me. Jackie Bryant, she's my writing mentor. She's a powerhouse in the space as well, a writer in the cannabis space, a trusted voice in that space. I really value her advice and her opinion. She's now on maternity leave, and I'm really thrilled for her. So big congratulations to her on her new adventure with a baby. And my third living mentor is his name is Mike Stevens, and he's a certified ganjier. Uh, he is a wealth of knowledge. He's helping me along my path in the ganjier program, and just a really great person who's been there even when I just needed somebody to cry to and say life is hard. He's like, I totally get it. So having mentors that you can be yourself, that you can show up wherever you're at, even if it's in a dark place, and those people are going to accept you and help to guide you to the next step and not let you stay in that dark place for too long. I think it's super, super important.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah,
Being impactful. Is that important to you and why?
absolutely. We have one lifetime to leave an impact. We have one lifetime to leave a legacy of love and support and positivity and there is such a thing as toxic positivity. You have to also be realistic. Life is hard. Life is really, really hard. And it's a lot harder for people who have been disproportionately affected by the war on drugs or other laws that are very racist. I understand that I have a privilege being a white female, a white cisgender woman. And I try to recognize that and also benefit other people with that privilege that I have and uplift those voices that are silenced in many cases. So I want to be somebody who people know when they hear my name that I am there to support other people, to uplift other people, to help people. If we don't leave that, what is the legacy that we're leaving? What was the point of that one life that we lived? So, I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect human. I make mistakes, but I try every single day to leave a lasting impression and help other people. And it's very important to me.
What in the long run, when you're looking back at your life, what do you want to be remembered for?
How big I love other people and helping other people to find cannabis and to use it in a way that really truly improves their life.
Tell me how again is the way we reach you? What is your new website going to be next week?
Yeah. So it's gobreecreative.com. And please find me on LinkedIn. Like I said, that's my number one spot right now where I am really connecting with people and networking with people. You can find me pretty soon here. I'll be at Whirly Gig in Minnesota. It's a cool music festival event. I'll be covering that. I'm throwing events in Minnesota with Natrium. It's a really great hemp-derived store that is now offering some events, educational events. I just started a new adventure with Elizabeth Sage and another living mentor of mine, Jocelyn Ball. We're starting a group called Don't You Know Cannabis? And it's kind of a play off of the Don't You Know phrase out of the Midwest and Minnesota. But we're hosting educational events. So you can find me there. And my writing portfolio is gobreecreative.contently.com. So you can read all of my articles there, all my blog posts there. But the best place to find me is either going to be LinkedIn, and it's LinkedIn/n/GoBreeCreative, I believe. Or is it LinkedIn/in/GoBreeCreative? So you can find me there. But yeah, I'm around.
I think we can definitely find you, and people will be looking to see what's new in your life.
Cool.
What would you say about your guest experience on the show, the Influencers Podcast today?
I've loved it. So much fun. I love the opportunity to talk about these topics because I'm so passionate about it. It's really exciting to be open about cannabis and how it's benefited my life and the people in my life who've chosen to also utilize it. It's just I thank you so much for giving me the platform to be able to discuss it. And hopefully we can continue the message that there are a lot of people who still need help, who have been affected by the war on drugs.
Very good. Well, I'll give you the final word to speak to our audience, and then I'll come back.
Yeah. So my final word is, if you work with women, if you know women who are in the professional space, if you know women in general and you know a woman in your life, support them in any way that you can. Show up for them, speak their name in rooms that they are not there, um, defend them in the boardroom when they're being interrupted. Um, try to call out, don't try, call out men who are doing locker room talk, who are saying nasty things about women. We need to really address this issue head on, and we need men to help us in that area to really defend women and to give women the opportunity to lead in the workplace and beyond. Women need more support than ever. The pandemic really affected a lot of working moms, myself included. I don't have access to childcare where I am, so I juggle my kiddo with the help of my folks. But just knowing that women need your support and showing up for them is really important. And also, what I had said earlier was, there's no competition. We all have our own unique assets to bring to the table, and as long as you are showing up as your full self, people will see that, and they'll hire you for your services. And if you're not the right fit for that, recommend your competition, recommend the person who's doing the same thing as you, because I truly believe that when we show up for other people, that karma comes back around.
There you have it. The last word from Bree Smith. She's definitely got a platform. She's got a niche. She's got her life put together. She's charging full force forward to support the new medical and recreational use of cannabis. She's supporting women in the workplace. So she's got her hands full with lots of areas to show up. One thing we want to do is to have you guys show up as our audience to check out the golden ticket. And I hope everyone will take an advantage of going to my website and signing up for your own personal ticket to get into the OMail system. And when you get into the OMail system, it opens up a whole new avenue of opportunity for you. You can have an income opportunity. You can have artificial intelligence in every product we have. So there's a lot of opportunity behind the door. So open the door, check it out, and we will be glad to see you again on the next Influencers podcast coming up later this week. And we're so glad we were able to share this time with all of you and with Bree and with all of our other persons that we had on today. This is Dr. Bill Williams checking out today on the Influencers podcast. See you next time.